Alright, so we're going to show you the proper way to disassemble an iPhone 6 Plus for a screen replacement and then reassemble it. As you can see, I really only have 4 tools. I see some folks using a suction cup. That's a little overkill. Don't think that's necessary at all. 4 tools is really all you need. Tweezers have got like a flat tip. Pry tool for the flex cables. Do not use metal to lift any flex cables in the phone. That is not smart. Hex bit screwdriver and a Phillips. So first things first, you're going to remove the 2 screws on the bottom. And you just place them, if you don't have a magnetic mat, you can just place them anywhere that they're not going to get moved around, but you want to keep all the screws separate because it does matter where they go. Then you want to take your plastic tool and get in between the frame and the screen, and once it's in between, just kind of, go lift it a little bit, come around the edge. I like to slide the pry tool down, come back up top, just slide the pry tool between the frame and the screen, slide it down, screen pops right up. Keep your screen at a 90-degree angle. First things first, always unplug the battery whenever you are working on any phone, period. Not just iPhone, but definitely iPhone. You go unplugging and plugging the screen while the battery's there. You'll be calling me for a backlight repair. Unplug it. Just leave it just like that if you want. Once it's unplugged, you're going to take these 5 screws out of the connector shield here. Be very careful not to slip. You don't want to hit any of these components over here with your screwdriver. And you can just, the way you take them out is the way you place them. So as you can see, I'm placing them just like this. That way I know when I go back which screw goes where, because this is very important in this particular spot, because if you get this long screw over here and screw it in, you're going to damage the board, and then it's going to need long screw damage repair. Once the shield is off, take your plastic spudger tool, just get underneath the connector a little bit. Don't be rough with it, just like so. It comes right up. You don't need to really use much of any force to get it up. And I always like to come from the sides. And as you can see, all the clips come off. You can set the frame and over to the side. Now you're just going to be working with the screen. So up here is the earpiece shield. You want to go ahead and take that off. So unscrew these 3 screws. Once again, lay the screws out the way you unscrew them. That way when you're going back and to screw them back in, you know where they go. See how I place the shield with the screws? That way I know how it goes. You just lift the camera up like this, move it to the left, pull your earpiece out, place it there. This is why I like these flat tweezers. You can really get underneath things that are adhered down, and you just come right over here and wedge your tweezers in between. You want to get this microphone off. Normally that doesn't happen, but you can see here it comes right off. Just set that next to that. That can go back down there, that's no big deal, since that's the broken screen. Now what you want to do is you want to take this back plate off. Taking all these screws out the side here. Sorry, the screws are going to be right here. They're just Phillips screws. Take this one out here. And then we're going to work on the notorious home button, getting that out. You got to be very careful when working with the home button. If it rips, game over. Touch ID will not work again. You will have a very angry customer. So what I do is I just come right over here with the pry tool, barely get under there, don't use a lot of force, and just lift up, kind of fold it over. Then you take these metal tweezers here and just ever so slightly get underneath this part here. You want to unstick it from the frame. Once it's unstuck, you can come to the on the other side of the screen, use your finger and just push up. Be very, very careful and just lift that right out and just set it right there. Then you can use these tweezers again to get under here. A lot of times this is pretty stuck down to the frame, but you just slowly wedge it under and lift that up. And as you can see, that plate comes right out. So this is the junk screen. We're going to put it to the side, and we are going to get a good screen, or actually we'll just use the same screen just for video purposes. But we're going to put this back down, and then we're going to start by screwing the plate in. So as you can see, I'm remembering where the screws go by the way I have them laid out. And just put the plate on first. And you put this last screw down here. Alright, once that's done, you can connect the home button if you like. You want to make sure that this is seated down. There's a little plastic thing right here. You just want to make sure that's behind it the way it should be. And then you just place this back down nice and easy. Got to reposition it right. And you'll see two little white nubs sticking up. You want to make sure the holes of this ribbon are aligned with that. And then you just fold your connector back over. Oh, don't apply too much pressure, but you should feel it just kind of press down or click in there. Then you get your back plate. Once again, you'll have a little white nub right there that will help you align it properly. And now we're going to put the front camera flex back in. So we're gonna adhere the microphone back here. Once again, there's a white nub right there, and there's a hole right there next to the mic. So you just line that up with the white nub. Just kind of push it down. It'll stick down to the adhesive. And then right here, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little square thing called a proximity sensor, and then another sensor here. They go in these cavities right there. So you want to make sure they're aligned, because if not, the earpiece will not sit flat. Alright. So make sure that's aligned. So you should feel it, flatten out. You kind of hold the camera to the left, and you want to grab your earpiece and align it just like that. The top has kind of like two holes sticking out. You want to align it with the screw holes, and then you can now put your camera over top of it. And then you want to take your back here, and you want to make sure it's nice and flat. You don't you don't want to see it sticking up, or you don't want to have to push really hard. That's how you want it to look, just like that. I would say this is probably the most difficult part for people trying for their first time, is getting this ribbon properly aligned. So then you put your screws back. And then now you got the screen totally reassembled. So you bring your frame back with batteries still disconnected, and you align these ribbon cables. So obviously, you know, from top to bottom, top, middle, bottom. And then that'll be your home button flex there. So you just bring them over, and you don't need to push hard. You should just have to kind of barely push down, and you should feel it click in. Barely push down, and you should feel it click in. If you push too hard, you can damage the connector. Then you're going to need a soldering job. So they're all in now. You take your plate, and this is very important once again to make sure that your screws match up. You need to remember where you got them from. If you don't, you will damage the phone, trust me. Alright, once you've got that, keep holding the screen, connect the battery, then you want to put the battery connector cover shield back on, screws back in. Now when you're putting the screen back in, obviously it won't be cracked, but you just kind of, there's some notches here that have to go underneath the frame, so you just kind of angle it a little bit, and you should kind of feel it slide right into place. Once you get the top aligned, you can now let go, and you just start pushing it in. You see how easy it snaps in. If it doesn't snap in that easy for you, it could be a couple things. You could have a screw loose in there that's blocking it, or maybe the metal tabs on the side are kind of bent and they won't want to sit in the frame. Do not put a lot of pressure when you're pushing it in. You will crack the screen if something's blocking it. And then you just put your two bottom screws back in. And it should still power on. Boom. Alright, so that was the disassemble and reassembly of a iPhone 6 Plus if you were going to do